Hey, what's up, YouTube, and welcome back to another episode of Deep Dive Analysis. Today, for the stream, we're going to be going over two teams, but you guys on YouTube will be seeing it over the course of two videos. Today, we're going to be going over Complexity Gaming, the second seed from South America, as well as Pioneers GG, the second seed from OCE. But that will be another video for you guys on YouTube, but for everybody currently right now, we're going to be looking at Complexity. The last deep dive analysis we did, we looked at Team Furia, and honestly, on paper, Furia are looking like one of the best teams in the world, not just South America, best teams in the world right now. And I also made the claim that Furia, on paper, look like better than Karmine Core. On paper, they look better than Karmine Core. That's something that might surprise some people. But honestly, to me, it doesn't seem that surprising. This is the most comfortable we've seen Lost ever since he was on the club back at the World Championship, where he almost made top 8, almost beating Furia. His most comfortable Yan's looked in a long time. I think Jorfinho is a perfect fit for those two players specifically. Now, they still got some issues, especially with off-ball pressure on the rotation back to defense, but honestly, they look like the best offensive team in the world right now. So that's why it's going to be interesting to see how did Complexity match up, because most people in the one regional Complexity did win. People were kind of writing it off because we can see that Furia did beat Complexity in a sweep in the Swiss bracket, but then Furia, honestly, in most people's eyes, just completely tossed in that grand final. Like Complexity, they did manage to beat Shaman, who are a bunch of up-and-coming players, so they managed to beat them. And then they beat Crew, who took out Hero Base in Game 7. But then they run into Furia, who honestly wasn't performing, so it's Complexity is definitely going to be an interesting team to look at, especially for me, because last time we did a deep dive analysis, we looked at or the last time I looked at Dorito in a deep dive analysis, he honestly was one of the worst players at the Winter Major on paper in terms of the skill that he brought to the table. Like, if you go back to the G1 video on my YouTube channel, I literally brought up a North American rank A 6-man series, and I got S5 Cosmic. He sent me one of his replays, and we looked at G1 versus Vitality. This was when Vitality didn't have Zen, of course, but it was G1 versus Vitality, and then we looked at a rank A 6-man series in North America, and honestly, if you looked at both series side by side, like you remove the nameplates, you would not be able to tell which one was the Pro Series and which one was the Rank A Series. That's how crazy the G1 weren't able to perform, excuse me. But also on top of that, when it looks like if you looked at the Winter Major itself, I mean, G1, they came out strong. They managed to sneak a game 5 victory against FaZe, and they held it close against Crew and G2. On paper, all three of those teams are far better than G1, so it's really cool that they managed to get game 5 and even win a series against the grand finalists in FaZe. But Dorito is easily one of the biggest issues on that team, so it's going to be interesting. And of course, if you guys didn't know, I believe Dorito was on the team that was the very first EU team to lose to an APAC team. We look at the wild card. Yeah, G1 lost to Elevate, and they managed to beat Oxygen later and Gaiman Gladiators, but they lost to Crew, which honestly it's expected. G1 should lose to Crew, but then they lost to Elevate, and that's the most interesting thing right here. Like Virtuoso Realize and Kami, who had internal team struggles, ended up beating G1, and I had Dorito, Atomic, and Holy. So it's honestly like, I don't know why they replaced Mark by 8 when he was clearly one of the better players on that team, but Dorito has had some issues. Now, one thing we do have to keep into account when we do talk about Dorito is that he does have experience with CRR. Back on Guild Esports, they managed to make Gamers 8, and they actually got top 2. And that was playing with his buddy CRR. And of course, Devo the GOAT. So Dorito, he has some experience. Maybe he just needed to find a comfortable team, and maybe we can really see that guy who got #1 in the world on the 2s leaderboard at some point. But honestly, only time will tell. The major starts in 8 days. We got a lot of teams to go over before then. So, without further ado, let's get into this first replay. So we're gonna go open qual 3. Honestly, their hardest match in open quals was the final one against Illuminous. But looking at the teams on Illuminous, Tyzai and Davitrox, they have a lot of experience, but obviously they weren't able to make it. So sad times for them. But let's see. So Complexity, they ended up losing to NIP. So that's probably the first match we should look at. Round 2 of Swiss Stage. So I'll go to round 2. Complexity versus NIP. And all right, so now it's time to start the analysis. So there's going to be a few things. So just for you viewers, of course, I'm going to be taking more in-depth notes during the thing, and I'll do my best to explain everything for you guys going throughout the replay. But just so you can follow along, either on the video or on the stream, there's a couple things that are necessary when it comes down to having a successful, consistent top pro team. At the end of the day, no human is perfect, so it's all about maximizing opportunities, efficiencies, and everything in that general sector of analysis that we're going to be looking at with all the teams that we look at. So here's what we're going to look at. So from the individual side of Rocket League, we're going to be looking for two main things from the individuals, because there's a lot of coaches out there that some of them just focus on the individual and some just focus on the team. But if you truly want to have a successful team that can win lands, win world championships, you need teams that are both individually sound and have individual expectations, as well as teams that are team-wise very sound as well and execute things from a team perspective as consistently as possible. If you don't have both the individual and the team, you don't got a true winning formula. It doesn't mean that the team can't win, but their individual skills will have to hard carry their team skills or vice versa, right? And that will overall make a very inconsistent team. But here we go. One of the big things you're going to be looking for from pro teams is possession. At the highest level of Rocket League, possession is a necessity. If you give away the ball for free, the other team, it's like, if you give the ball to the other team for free, even at your lower rank games, you just gave the other team the best gift they've ever received. Like, if you give away that ball for free, like, imagine the best Christmas gift, Easter gift, birthday gift, or whatever gift you've ever received. Imagine the best one you've ever gotten. That's what it feels like when the other team at the pro level gives you free possession. It's a necessity, because at the end of the day, in order for you to score in Rocket League, what do you need? You need the ball, right? So that's going to be number one thing we're looking for, to make sure that teams either individually or team-wise understand the idea of possession. So for example, with Carmine Corps, all three players understood the necessity of possession. Same with Furia, and same with G2. So all three of the players on each of those teams were really good in regards to that. I believe there's only one player that had an issue with possession, and I believe it was actually Daniel, who had a little bit of issues with possession sometimes. But overall, this is one thing we're looking either individually or from a team perspective. And the other thing we're going to be looking for is the idea of knowing how to read the play rather than react. Of course, when you look at the two words side by side, reading does sound better, but what does reading mean? Reading is a pro's ability to know 100% what's happening ahead of time. So you can look at how fast the pro's going, look at their elevation on the ball, and then you can look at their angle, and you should be able to tell exactly what they're doing, because we're all guilty of this at some point or another. We said, my opponents are so bad that they scored on me. In reality, it's just you weren't good enough to read whatever they were doing. At the highest level, most pros can read each other with almost 100% consistency. Now, there are a few rare pros who can't read the play, such as a Tao, or last season we looked at Ahmad, who's one of the worst players at reading the play. And normally they're the reasons their team gets scored on, but normally you don't see a team with more than one person who can't read the play. So, for example, a Tao can't read the play very well, but mechanically he's very, very good. And Vatira and Rise are two of the best players in the world at reading the play, so it kind of balances out. But if Carmine Corps to lose, it's more than likely going to be off of something that a Tao could have saved if he was individually better in this department. That was going to be the two individual things we're going to be looking for today. Now, from a team side of things, of course, we're going to be looking to see if overall the team is good at possession and reading the play as well. But this is more so from a structure standpoint. So there's two parts of team gameplay. There's the structure and understanding of structure, which is, of course, do the teams understand the three necessary jobs in the field: on the ball, support, and off ball pressure. These are the three necessary parts of high-level gameplay. Now, some teams, they understand these three jobs on offense, but then they fall off on the off-ball pressure side on defense, and it leads to their team getting stuck on defense for a long time. Some teams have all three, but then individually they fall off in the possession side or reading the play side. All right, so that's going to be the big thing we're looking for structure-wise. All the teams understand, one, what are all the positions, and two, do they understand the best structure for them? Because in Rocket League, we want to make sure there's a team flow so we can maximize momentum, right? So that's gonna be one thing that we're looking for. The other team side that we're gonna be looking for is more so the adaptive side of rotations. So this is more so, do players understand to fill in the jobs in priority? So ball guys most important, then support, and off ball pressure is still necessary, but it's not as important as support, which is not as important as on the ball. Right? So making sure the players fill in these jobs as quickly and efficiently as possible. So that's more so the adaptive side of Rocket League they're going to be looking at for the pro teams and players. But there we go. Now that we got a semblance of understanding of what we're going to be looking for through all of today's replays, I think you guys are tired of hearing my voice without some replays behind it. So let's get started. The first thing we're going to be looking at is, let's look at the stats between Complexity and NIP. NIP did manage to win this. If you guys don't know NIP, Knight, of course, was on Team Secret last season, Astromic on NIP last season. But Swift, a new up-and-comer, he's 15 years old, or I believe he was when the season started. I don't know if he just turned 16 or not. But he's a very solid player. He's honestly what most people would have called the South American scrub killer, first killer, whatever prodigy you want to put his name under. He's honestly really solid. Now, he's not a Zen type of prodigy. He hasn't won an event yet, but he has made grand finals. But at the end of the day, who knows? Maybe if Zen played in NA or SAM on a different team, or maybe he played in Europe with a different team right off the bat, who knows? Maybe he doesn't do the amazing three-peat that he did, right? So honestly, you could compare him. Maybe you could compare him to a Zen, but I'd say a closer example would probably be Daniel, or a first killer. But here we go. So the big thing we're looking for: demos inflicted. We want to see this number being positive over the demos taken. The CRR, he's neutral, so that's okay. Then we see Raise Bull is negative and Dorito is negative. So off-ball pressure, definitely not looking good outside CRR for complexity, but the avoidance of off-ball pressure. This is an individual skill. Your ability to avoid demos and stay in position, that's a big individual skill. Now, stats don't mean everything, but it does give us something to look for in these replays. Then boost wise, honestly, everybody except CRR. Like CRR is a little low on the boost side of things, but if you look, he's actually the second lowest. The Swift's the lowest on 75 to 100 boost. And then CRR second lowest, so that's something to look at. And as I said, stats don't mean everything. There are some coaches that try to use stats as a be-all, end-all. They're good to look at stuff in replays and to keep track of things, but in reality, depending on the team you're playing against, the game has so much variance that you more so look at the stats to give you an idea of what to look for. Like, for example, when I look at a ground stat, normally I'm looking above 50 or below 60. Because that normally shows us that they're not, if they're below 50, they're probably pre-jumping too much. Maybe they're panicking and just pre-jumping everything. Or if they're above 60, it normally means that they're kind of hesitating. They might not be going for some balls. Now, it's not a perfect be-all, end-all, but it gives us something to look for. But all right, without further ado, let's get started. Probably a good match to look for at first is one of the matches they lose. Probably game 3 because they just won. Wow, there was 4-3-2 games in this. So this was actually a really good series. Let's see. Because normally when I'm doing my freelance coaching, normally what I ask people to give me is score lines that are 3-2-2-3. Normally it's the perfect amount of goals where the both teams are trying the entire match, but at the same time it's also enough goals to where you can really see a team scoring and getting scored on, whether you win or lose. So honestly pretty good. But the first player that I want to start off with is honestly the player who I felt was the worst on complexity last season. Now, when I say worst, I mean in terms of he was the weakest player on complexity. And of course, you can check out my analysis on complexity on YouTube from last season's winter major. But CRR, he had big issues last season. He had issues with reading the play ahead of time. That was one big issue he had. Was reading. He reacted to the play most of the time. But he offset this by forcing himself to be facing the play and close to it. Facing and close when supporting. So he kind of offset this. Now, if the ball get hit over his head, he normally didn't read it, but if his teammates set him up properly, he was still always in position and very fast to play. And of course, we know CR very mechanical. Very, very mechanical when it comes to this game of car soccer. So this is some stuff that we can be expecting from him. And then complexity as a whole. So this is, remember, this is with AJG, who AJG was honestly the least weak player in Rocket League last season by a long shot. Like, sure, his strengths aren't very high. Like, if you look at his skill ceiling, his skill ceiling isn't nearly as high as Raise Bull or CRR. But when you looked at his skill floor was higher than some pros' peaks. And that's what's crazy to most people, or maybe not their peaks, but higher than most pros' averages. Like, his floor was higher than most averages. Sure, he had that one missed shot, but if we're being completely honest, every pro has a missed shot that's really bad in their careers. It's just, when did that bad shot happen? Sadly for AJG, it was in the series where they could have taken down Vitality. Right, in that game 5, it would have been the game winner if he scored that. So, but enough talk about AJG. He's not on this team anymore. Let's overall see how this match ends up going. So right off the bat, we see some great possession from Dorito. And we can see that complexity do fall into a decent structure off the kickoff. As right now, we can see that Razebull, he wants, so of course Razebull's technically third man, and normally we want to see off-ball pressure, but something we don't talk about in Rocket League that much is team flow, where you want the team to follow the same flow. That way we can maximize individual momentum. And if a whole team is able to maximize momentum, their individual spheres of influence are a lot bigger. For example, if you have no momentum at all, you're not able to cover as much of the field in short of a time span, right? But if you have momentum, you can cover a lot more. So that's why as a team, you normally focus on flow. So since Razebull's right off the kickoff, it's fine for him to go grab a big boost and fill in second behind CR when he gets the ball. So this is honestly this is fine so far. CR is supporting facing the play. He could probably be closer, but honestly, his support's looking good. And Dorito is taking possession right off the kickoff, which is actually an issue G1 had last season, where possession wasn't a necessity for G1 last season. But Complexity was one of the best rotating teams last season, so I love to see that we're getting possession right off the bat from Team Complexity. So now let's see how they fill in this structure here. It looks a little weird. I do have to look at it from Razebull's POV, see what he thought. Because he takes the kickoff, he goes for the boost, the ball gets it across. Honestly, if he comms it, it's honestly fine. So technically speaking, if you were to no comm, for example, technically this would still be CRR's ball, and this is something that might help you guys out for ranked. Remember, you might see that this is clearly a better hit for you, right? But you do have to remember that your teammate may not necessarily see that. And in solo queue, you got to expect that your teammate is dumb. Now, if you get lucky, like imagine you have a teammate that's really, really good, then by all means, like, great, you got one lucky game, but it shouldn't be expected, right? Now, at the pro level, CRR, he didn't really know Raise Bull's going, so this is clearly a calm thing from Complexity. Raise Bull called that he's going for it. So CRR, he was still prepared, right? That's the difference maybe between your ranked teammate and CRR. CRR, he probably was thinking that he's going to go for this ball, but when Raise Bull called him off, it's not like CRR was surprised, right? He's still aware his teammate was here. His teammate did just grab the big boost, so honestly, it's fine. And the big thing that we want to look at from Complexity here is we want to see Dorito applying off-ball pressure, which it looks like he's going to grab a boost. So we are going to have to see if Dorito grabs the boost and turns back to keep the flow going. But then we want to see Raise Bull go in, fill in Ball Guy, and then we want to see CRR fill in support. So let's see if that's what ends up happening here. The CRR, he fills in second. So it looks like just due to how fast the play was going, Dorito did steal the boost, and here the team flow didn't hurt so much. So I think this is one of those more random plays. It doesn't mean the Complexity don't have a team flow issue or is good with team flow, because at the end of the day, he did rotate front post back into the flow of his teammates, which can mess up the team. Here it didn't matter so much. It is something that we do have to look out for, at least for Dorito. But if we look at what Raise Bull and CRR did, Raise Bull went, he forced. CRR forced himself to face forward. He's close. And then he thought he had a good shot opportunity, so he went for the shot. And then he refills in first again. And look at that. We did see Dorito back in the midfield supporting, and we see Raise Bull applying off-ball pressure. So right now, Complexity rotationally are looking really, really good right now. From a team perspective, they're looking really good. Now let's see how they handle this more awkward situation. So CR gets the boost steal, and then he does rotate behind Raise Bull. Now we got Phil in second, Raise Bull in first, and Dorito was applying off-ball pressure. Brilliant stuff from Complexity. It looks like playing in South America has not harmed them being one of the best rotating teams in the world right now. So let's see. So it looks like as a team, everyone understands the necessity of possession and is great with it. That's number one. As a team, the structure is very solid on offense. We haven't really seen them on defense yet. So we're going to put on offense. Someone is always on the ball, supporting, and applying off-ball pressure. Now, we can't really put as a strength for team flow. They have team flow, but we can't put it as a strength. So we'll leave it blank for now in that regard. They understand the necessity of possession and the structure. The structure is very solid on offense. They understand the necessity of always having someone always on the ball, supporting and applying off-ball pressure. So this is really good for Complexity right now. They are looking like a very, very strong team. We haven't really looked at much of the individual strengths yet. We'll look into that a little bit. But honestly, we haven't really seen a team weakness just yet. Outside team flow possible. So let's see. DRR taking possession. Goes for a beat. Great support from Dorito. But look at this. This is just magnificent team structure and rotations right off the bat. And honestly, adaptively, it looks like the players are relatively good at adaptive rotations, but not as clean as some of the European and North American teams, by what I've noticed. But look at this from CRR. He's taking possession. But then, look at Dorito. He's forcing himself to stay close and face the play. Now, honestly, mechanically, Dorito's not really impressing me that much. That's one thing I am going to note. But right now, look at Complexity. Like, this is a coach's dream right here for complexity. There's almost always somebody on the ball, someone supporting the person on the ball, and someone applying off-ball pressure. And then they don't have people turning back in to look for demos either. They're keeping the flow of the rotation going. This is at least pure, this is almost perfect structural team Rocket League. Now, we do have to see if the adaptive rotations are clean. For example, imagine Raise Bull's going and Doritos a little far away. Does CRR cut in this situation properly? Or if Raise Bull is on the ball properly and so he's being supported, does somebody cut in unnecessarily? Or does somebody rotate front post and then cut in unnecessarily? That's what we're going to be looking for now from a team perspective. So let's see how that ends up going. Probably going to stick on Raise Bull screen now. We haven't seen... Ooh. Here we go. We see the first instance of something that caught me off guard. So technically we're on the defensive end of the field. JR passed it back. He grabs the boost. So this is all fine. So now what we should see is Raise Bull fill in second, Dorito fill in first, and we want to see CRR. He can be a upfield pass if they think they can maintain possession with speed. Normally, this is a counter-attack option where you can use CRR instead of as a demo guy. You can use it as a way to speed up the play and as a way to try and instantly apply pressure to the other team. But normally, from a team perspective, we want to see him rotating down the middle and being an option as a pass in the middle, and then eventually rotating out, or something similar to that. So this is not what CR ends up doing, though. He sees that Dorito takes possession. He doesn't look for a demo on Swift. He's honestly kind of following the ball. If we look at CR here, he gets the boost. So boost is priority there, so that was fine. And then right here, if you look, this should be a demo on Swift every day of the week. This is defensive, like his job. Like, think about it like this. Raise Bull is second man, so he's support. Dorito's on the ball, so he's possession. And then CRR, that just by default, since these two jobs are filled in, he is off-ball pressure, and he's not doing that job. So I do have to see if it's more so a CRR thing rather than a complexity thing, but that is something we're going to have to look for on the defensive end of things. But then look at his individual decision-making here. So I'm going to watch it from Raise Bull's POV, just because it's a lot cleaner to look at that. But look at this. Dorito has a full, clean possession. And Ciara is already up the wall and trying to take it off of him. So I do have to see how much boost Dorito has. Oh, he has ample boost. It's not the worst play in the world looking at it from CRR and Dorito's point of view, but there's bad habits here. And this is what's going to make a team on land very inconsistent, right? Like, CRR needs to be looking for a demo on Swift. This needs to happen at the highest level. If you have this opportunity, you have a second and a first man already, this needs to be done. But let's see. Is it more so a mechanical issue here? Yeah, more so a mechanical issue. Looks like he was rushing his decision making a little bit here. So that's something that we can put down for a weakness from CRR. On the defensive end, is in a rushed mindset and does not do his individual jobs as well as he should. And of course, what are the individual jobs? Possession, support, close, off-ball, pressure. That's something we do have to put for CRR. It's something that he still, like, and the fact that I'm seeing it now, like, this is something that was a problem for him last season. So the fact that we're still seeing it even once in the first 30 seconds, that shows me he hasn't improved in that regard. That is something that we do have to pay attention to. But now that we're on offense, what I expect to see here is he's going to grab pads and try to support Raise Bull. That's what we should see. Going all the way back for 100 boosts. So there is a issue here with CR. This is actually the same as last season as well, as a matter of fact. Focuses on big pads and rather than grabbing small pads and staying in the play / position. So this could be why complexity falls apart sometimes. We can see that they're losing their team play because of stuff like this from CRR. Now, we do have to see if this is just a CRR thing or if this is the complexity thing as a whole. Because right now, imagine if CRR does its job properly. So he would be grabbing pads, ball cam on. He sees that Raise Bull's going to force. So then he grabs this pad. He sees Raise Bull's forcing, so he starts to turn. Go upfield. Now he's supporting Raise Bull again. And then, if he reads the play properly, this should be a free ball. If he reads the Tromic's touch ahead of time. It should be a free ball. But either way, he should still be in position where even if he doesn't read it, it still acts as a force for if Dorito is supporting CRR in the situation properly here. So we do know that Complexity have a good structure, but it looks like Boost might be an issue. So I am going to switch over to Dorito here. The Dorito ends up hitting the ball across. And here we can see, again, Boost being a big factor for even Dorito. It's not just CRR. Because even if Dorito didn't grab this big boost here, since CRR is rotating out, Dorito, in his mind, should be trying to fill in support here. Or at least starting to meander over the middle field here. Because maybe CRR grabs the boost and gets back in position in time. In which case, Dorito can just, instead of cutting, can just go right back in behind CRR. As we can see, Dorito's not rotating towards the middle. He's staying really far away from the play. And if you look, he was going for that big boost. He does eventually cut in. But yeah, so it looks like it looks like there's a spacing issue caused by boost for complexity right now. But let's continue to watch, just overall see what the issue is. Go a bit further back a little bit more. So he does fill in second behind Raise Bull here. Raise Bull passes that field to CRR. That's honestly fine. I'm fine with that. But individually, could you have seen he was getting beat? Because look at this from NIP. NIP supported really well here. CRR went for the touch. Knight essentially is acting as the force, but Astromic read the play really well here. Like Dorito, he had no idea where CRR's touch was going to go until after the ball was hit. So this is a little bit more of a read in the play issue from Dorito. We can see that he slows down after the ball's hit. That means he had no idea where the ball was going. But on the positive end of things, the good side of it that we notice is he's forcing himself to be close and facing the play. That's something that we do have to put down as a whole for both CRR and Dorito as a strength is, what's it called? We do have to put, so for a weakness, Dorito does not read the play very well, and instead reacts, which means he turns or goes for some balls only after a play has been made / ball has been hit. This makes him slower. Makes him slower to the balls than opponents who, instead of reacting, read the play ahead of time. That's a big weakness. But strength, even if he does not read the play, he still forces himself to support as close as he can while facing wherever the ball is. This allows complexity, even if individually they are not the best at reading, to still constantly apply pressure, and it is more on the other team to match them with team rotations and individually outskill them. So this lead, and right here, this I'm gonna put in parentheses right here. This makes a team very consistent. All right, here. From a team perspective. Doesn't make them consistent individually, but this is actually really good strength for both Dorito and CRR. So really good notes so far for both those players. Do want to check out Ray's Bull now. Let's see. So if I remember correctly, ooh, we've seen a couple of issues from Ray's Bull mechanically. Honestly, in this whole first minute, we've seen issues mechanically from Ray's Bull. So the fact that we've seen multiple instances means that mechanically, I can't give Ray's Bull that best in the world mechanical right now. He's reading the play decently well. If anything, he's a little far away when he's supporting sometimes. Yeah, so look at this. So Ray's Bull does, it looks like he reads the macro. He doesn't read the macro really well. Like he's not like right here, he reads the initial miss, but he doesn't get the. Actually, no, he looks like he didn't even pay attention tonight. So right here, he reads CRR and Astromech really well. Like, he knew he was beating Astromech with this ball, or Astromech is missing whatever, but he didn't have the awareness of Knight. So he's reading the play decently better than CRR and Dorito, but we can see that unlike CRR and Dorito, he's not forcing himself from a team perspective to support as close as he can. So he is facing the play, but he's not supporting close. So he's not being as effective as a second man positionally. And think about it. In Rocket League, it doesn't matter if you're a bronze or if you're a pro. Mechanically, everyone goes the same speed. If a bronze knows how to double jump aerial, they are the same speed as a pro. So what makes a pro different speed-wise than a bronze, for example? Or even if you're an SSL, what's difference SLL. What makes a SSL or even a normal top 100 player different than a pro? Pros normally force themselves to be closer to the play and are something usually better individually. But when you're closer to the play, mechanically, you don't have to do as much. You can see here, individually, Razebull has to do a lot more. Since Razebull's so far away from the play here, he has to read two players' hits or miss hits, depending whatever they're doing. And then mechanically, he has to do a lot more to be able to block that as well. Now imagine Razebull's already in position. Imagine he was a lot closer here. Let's say Razebull started flipping up the field here. Like, he flipped over the field, he's maintaining momentum with CR. He reads the ball's bouncing down, so he's supporting close. Well, look at that. Mechanically, all he has to do is single jump, arrow shot. So way simpler mechanically. And it's also simpler on him reading the play-wise because he only has to read one player missing or hitting in Astromech. If you read the Astromech's hitting it, he's just going to rotate back, fill in second. But since he's so far out of position, he's making it harder on himself. This is something that CRR or Dorito would be in this position. Sure, CRR and Dorito don't know how to read the play, but they're still in position, so if they do react in time, even if they can't read it, they're still here for the most part. But and even if CRR and Dorito do misread it and aren't able to get the ball, just because they're closer to the play, you're also applying pressure by presence, which is a very important part of Rocket League as well. So Razebull does have an issue with supporting close. Honestly, didn't expect to see that as an issue. And this is an individual issue, right? Because all the players understand what job they are. So it's not a structure issue. This is so now we've seen multiple players. So Furia doesn't have this problem at all. But if you look at Atal on Carmine Core, Daniel on G2, and now Razebull on Complexity, we're seeing that with some of the top teams, the second man in terms of positioning is a really big issue right now for some of the players. So we'd have to put this Razebull. Razebull does not force himself to support as close to his teammates as possible. Since everyone in Rocket League mechanically is the same speed, he is going to get beat to balls by players who positionally are closer to the play. This leads to his team losing pressure on offense due to him as second man getting beat to the ball by the opponent second man. And we do have to pay attention to see if complexity overall, all three of them have issues with reading the play. To me, it looks like Ray's Bull, he reads the, like right there, he reacted the play. But if you look right here, he read that really well. So it looks like Ray's Bull's fine with reading the play when it comes down to one-on-one. But so far, not looking that good when it comes down to reading everybody on the field. Yo, Red Snow, how we doing, man? Welcome to the stream. I haven't seen you in a live part of the analysis so far. How we doing, man? Currently looking at complexity. Got some good notes. The Rays Bull, he is trying to play first man here. So this does look like it's a team thing from Complex. They try to use their third man as an outlet almost. But the biggest issue with that is we're seeing Complexity go for passes for speed when the speed's not going to help them out that much. Doing better now. I got Mr. Coachman spreading some wisdom. Awesome, awesome. But this is something that we saw CRR do earlier, where he is third man. Of course, third man. Normally, we want to see him doing stuff off ball. And on the defensive end, we're again seeing that the third man on defense is not really looking to help relieve pressure for the team. Like against some of the Sam teams, it's not going to hurt complexity as much not having off ball pressure, because Sam teams themselves, normally all Sam teams tend to have this issue on defense. But as we can see, he's not looking to help out his team as all. It's more so he's expecting his team to get possession out of the first and second man, and he's trying to use himself as an outlet pass to get the ball from defense to offense. This is a very similar idea to both hockey and soccer. Of course, in soccer, you got people pretty much across the entire length of the field, so more maybe hockey would probably be the better example here, where you're having somebody fill in behind and somebody fill in front. So that way, whether CRR loses a 50, Dorito gets the ball, or if CRR hits the ball, beats somebody, Raysbull gets the ball. But we can see here that CRR is passing it when he's not being pressured. And that's, of course, going to lead to a big waste of boost. But speed also isn't going to help here. We can already see that two players on complexity are back, or on NIP are back. So playing for speed here is bad, but also if you pass to somebody when you have no one challenging you, you're just using boost to give the ball to somebody else for them also to use boost, right? So this does seem to be like a play style issue with complexity, where they try to use a third man as an outlet pass in unoptimal situations on defense. So that is something that we do want to take a note of for a team weakness. On defense, the team as a whole does not understand the necessity of off-ball pressure, and instead cherry picks upfield and hopes their teammates will get possession for a quick counterattack. The issue here is they are looking for a counterattack in situations where speed will not help them, and are looking for passes when none of the opponents are challenging. So what this tells me here is that playing in Europe or North America, individually, Swift or Knight is going to read this play, and the opponents are going to stay on offense. If you're looking at North America or Europe, someone individually is going to read this play and keep it on offense here. But even playing against a team like Team Power from OCE, where individually maybe they aren't as solid. What's going to end up happening here is they end up passing for no reason and use all their boost. And a very speedy team like Team Power is just going to use their speed to get that ball. And they're going to really show Complexity what it means to counterattack with speed. Just because we can see, like, technically he's trying to maintain possession by giving it to CRR. But what will end up happening is that playing against the more individually sound teams, CRR and Dorito aren't going to get possession on their own. It's just not going to happen. So since Raise Bull's not trying to apply off-ball pressure and watch mid on defense, it's just going to lead to constant pressure for the opponents. So that's the biggest issue that I'm noticing from the team side of things with Complexity. But we do see here, again, Raise Bull supporting a little far away, but he is focusing on possession. But yeah, again, we're not seeing the same, like, Raise Bull's definitely not looking as mechanical as he did last season. Like, I can't say that Raise Bull is better than everyone else in the world mechanically. His mechanics aren't a weakness, so I can't put his, I'm not saying his mechanics are a weakness, but I can't say his mechanics are a strength either. So that's something we can't really put down for Raise Bull. But he's on low boost. Let's see, how is his pathing? Pathing honestly doesn't look that great. Let's look at his boost management overall. So right here, he should apply off-ball pressure, which he instead goes for big boost. So it looks like we've now confirmed the whole big boost thing is a weakness from a team perspective. So the team as a whole focuses on grabbing big pads rather than grabbing smalls, conserving boost, and staying in the play. This means that when when just one person runs out of boost on Complexity, normally they lose pressure at that instant. And of course, once you lose pressure, you're not going to be able to win. Because think about it from a macro perspective. When you look at high-level Rocket League, it's basically both teams are fighting for possession, of course. But what does possession lead to? It leads to possession on the opponent's end of the field, which is pressure. So if you technically think about it, whichever team has more pressure gets more shots. Whatever team has more shots normally gets more goals, and whoever team has more goals will end up winning, right? So right here, we can see that since Complexity as a whole, all three players focus on grabbing boosts more so than staying in position. Like, boost is a priority over positioning for them. And this ends up leading to big giveaways of pressure and possession to other teams. It might not hurt them as much in South America. They do lose against NIP here. But if they play against Europe, especially, Europe focuses on positioning over boost a majority of the time. So it's going to be very hard for Complexity to beat a European team. But I do think they'll have a better chance against a North American team because there are a lot of North American teams that do have the same issue with boost over positioning. So it's not going to hurt them as much against North America, but it will hurt them against Carmine Corps, BDS, all those types of teams. That is something that we do want to pay attention to for Complexity. So here we go. Overall, have a focus on boost over positioning. Big issue there. Let's look back at CRR. So it looks like CRR is pretty good at maintaining momentum and grabbing pads. So that's something that is really good for CRR. That's a strength that you do got to put down for CRR. Great at conserving momentum, grabbing pads, and conserving boost. That's something we have to put as a strength for CRR. Great at boost padding. Well, I can't say great at boost padding. I can say great at conserving boost and momentum. Now let's look at Raise Bull, who we just talked about. He is not great at conserving momentum or boost. That is a weakness for Raise Bull. Not the best at conserving boost or momentum. This leads to him having less boost and being less useful to the play than other players or opponents. But we can definitely see that without AJG, we can see that Complexity have lost their consistency factor. Like, with AJG, one of the best one of the least weak players in the world individually, your consistency is going to be extremely high. AJG did his job better than everyone else. Now, he didn't overly excel, but honestly, the fact that he could do his job so consistently is what made him such a good player. So, looks like CRR, not CRR, Dorito, his pathing is not that great. But his momentum is out. But his ability to maintain momentum is pretty exceptional. Look at this. He should be able to. He wave dashes. He does go back for boost, but he's conserving his momentum really well. Ooh, that's a big giveaway of possession. So team-wise, it looks like there's a focus on possession, but we can see Doritos G1 days sometimes hit into him. That ball there didn't do anything for the team. But he does look for off-ball pressure. We can see he's keeping momentum really well. CCRR trying to focus on possession. Mechanically messes up a little bit there. But yeah, that's a pass, so that's fine. Bill's in second. Here we go. This is what I've been looking for. It looks like Complexity do have a semblance of understanding for adaptive rotations, where they will ensure all 3 jobs are filled in priority quickly by cutting rotations. Great at choosing when to cut rotations as a TLDR. Alright. We don't have any individual strengths for CRR, but I think we can put for CRR. Actually, wait, hold on. For Dorito, we do have to put great at conserving momentum. But unlike Razebull, who has issues conserving momentum and boost, we can see that Dorito is great at conserving momentum and boost, but he's not the best at pathing. I think as a whole, we have to put for the team. Team overall also does not have the best pathing. So something we can put down for them. But we do got to find some strengths for some of these players. Let's see. I think Razebull has a great eye for possession. He may not be the best in the world mechanically, but he has a great eye for possessions. That's something we do have to put down for Razebull. Razebull strengths. Has a great eye as first man for where to take possession. And will create opportunities out of it. We do have to find a strength. Or we have a strength for them. So we got strengths for CRR now. We got strength for Razebull. And we got strengths for Dorito. Okay. Again, supporting close, so that's pretty good. Great at conserving momentum. Pathing was honestly decent. But again, the read and the play issue is what happened here. We can see that CRR is in position technically, but he doesn't read the play. He's trying to grab Big Boost, which he misses. Razebull forces. And again, we see Dorito misreads this play as well. Ends up being a goal as well. So the read and the play issue tends to be the biggest issue for... so I will have to put read and the play as a big issue for Dorito, of course. But I think we're going to have to put it for as a weakness for CRR as well. All right. Wow, the goat Luke. Hello, Wolfie. How we doing, man? Welcome back to the stream. But here we go. So we got a decent amount of strengths for CR. I do want to watch CR for the rest of this game because he hasn't really shown me. I haven't really seen the potential yet. I don't think Dorito is a great featuring for anybody. Yeah. I do definitely think that Dorito replacing AJG is probably the worst roster move since, what was it, a lot being replaced on complexity. I think it probably has to be the worst roster move of all time. From a LAN team perspective, like, don't get me wrong, there's probably been worse roster moves. But from a LAN team perspective, I do think that this is probably one of the worst roster moves of all time. Definitely compares with a lot. Metza and Magnus splitting up. Off-ball pressure. What was that from Dorito? Hold up. He was supporting Rain's Bolt, and then he goes for a dem. Ooh. Okay. This should never happen at pro level play. So his awareness for positioning and what job he has can sometimes lead him to cutting into positions he should not be in, or making uninformed decisions. So this is again a read in the play issue, but we do have to be more specific. I feel like he's, how long has that kissing photo been there on your left? I don't know, good bit. My friend got it for me for Christmas, and we found it funny, so I left it there. And, yeah, so, and my gay sibling really loves it too, so he doesn't like Star Wars at all, but he likes this, so it's perfect. His gameplay just feels stiff to watch. Yeah, I can definitely agree with that. Here we go. But a good read from Dorito here. He does get, or he does turn to fill in afterwards. So the adaptive rotation was good here. It's just he definitely hurt the structure. So I think that's what we did have to put down. This can lead to him individually hurting the structure of the team, even though as a whole, the team looks on the structure. So this is kind of like think of it as a hole, as a puncture in the armor for complexity's rotations. Something we do have to put for complexity though is they have a great mix-up of solo plays and Pat. I think has a strength. Has a very dynamic playstyle. They will mix up solo plays and team plays a good bit. Actually, honestly, they've only been passing. I was thinking this since they're passing, it's good, but we haven't really seen as many solo plays as we could be, so I can't really think it's a strength. Honestly, I'm thinking I'm gonna put it as a weakness for complexity. Complexity do not have a very dynamic playstyle and force themselves to pass even when it is not optimal. And since they are always passing, they are very readable for the opponent. That's probably why Furia are doing so well. It's just that alone. It's probably why Furia are doing really well against them. But here we go. Even if he does not read the play, still forces himself to support. It's close. And honestly, I think we can put CR one of the most, one of the best mechanically. There we go. So, but that's only CR. Like, if we looked at Furia, we have Lost and Yan, two of the most mechanical players in the world. You look at Karma Core, you got Vatira and Rise. On G2, you got all three of them. So it's honestly interesting to see which teams have the most mechanical players in the world. But if you look at Vitality, you just got Zen. He's one of the most mechanical players in the world, but for being completely honest, Alpha and Radosin, definitely not the most mechanical in the world. Now, Alpha, he can step up to that level, but at the end of the day, if it's not consistent, I can't really call him one of the best mechanically in the world. It's just not something that we can really do. Go to Raise Bull, see if we can find any more strengths in his gameplay. Honestly, he's not looking like the second man for AJG like last season. It just looks like Raise Bull's uncomfortable, and it could be due to playing with Dorito and CRR, who do have a multitude of issues for themselves. And it's something that you have to take note of is when a new player joins, it could be that the individual weaknesses of certain players make you feel very uncomfortable. Like Raise Bull did not have this issue supporting close last season. I could pull up a replay if we ever wanted to check it out. Like it's so complexity, honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if Raise Bull wanted to find another team after this season, or if he convinces CRR to team with somebody else, honestly. Just because he was fine with CRR on his team last season with HAG, but he needs to find a better fit than Dorito on this team. But who knows? Maybe in Complexity's mind, making it so Dorito and CRR are very comfortable. Maybe Raiseball being a little bit more uncomfortable is a benefit for them. But yeah, we're not nearly seeing anywhere near the same. Like, Raiseball last season looked like a carry sometimes mechanically. But like this season, I can't even say mechanically he looks like one of the best in the world right now. Like last season, he definitely was, but I can't really say that for Raiseball right now. And I'd say that's a big drop off to his gameplay. The fact that he doesn't look scary when he's playing anymore. That's a very big issue. And we're not seeing the same creativity. We do see some chances here for Complexity, but if we look at how comfortable NIP look playing against Complexity in this Swiss stage map. NIP, they sure rotationally are having some issues, but they're looking confident mechanically. They're playing with speed. That's something that we haven't really talked about for Complexity. They honestly seem like a pretty slow team. Just looking at it with the eye test, they're looking like a pretty slow team. I bet if we look at the stats, it'll also reflect that as well. Actually, I'm not sure. Maybe the stats wouldn't reflect it. Good players. Movement. Honestly, it's... never mind. They stats wise, they're actually pretty fast, but the stats don't normally tell the full picture. Like normally, the reason why their stats are so high is because they're rotating back for big boosts so often. And because at the end of the day, think about it like this: if your rotations look like this, where you're just rotating forward and backward, like you have very straight line rotations, you're going to be faster statistically because you're going the same speed for longer periods of time. Normally, some teams like Karmakor, who are a very fast team, they're fast because of their positioning. So, for example, we'll see somebody on the ball and someone's supporting, and they're always supporting close. Maybe somebody gets demoed here. The third man's going to take these pad lines, stay closer to the play. So, since there's so much more turning, their momentum throughout the entire game is going to be a lot lower. But their speed in terms of how fast they're going to get to every single ball is going to be a lot higher than other teams because positionally they're in position because they're closer to the play. I think Raise Bull also tends to throw himself at balls he's clearly getting beat to. But it's more so because he's not reading the second man, kind of like we talked about before. Don't know how they didn't score, yeah. But he does focus on possession. This is a big strength here for Raise Bull. He does he has a great focus on possession. And he has a great eye for first man where to take possession. He really understands the necessity of possession. It might be a team thing that they're focusing, but he really understands it. Dorito, we do have to put, does not have the best understanding of possession, even if the team does focus on it. Sometimes he gives away the ball for free, which is what the other team wants. All right. Something you do have to put down for Dorito and for all three of them, though, is one of the faster individuals with the ball in the world. One of the fastest individuals with the ball in the world. That's something you do have to put down for all three of them. It's another strength we can add on for Raise Bull. But like as you can see for Raise Bull, I'm having a tough time really finding strengths for him. And you have to remember, when I say strengths or weaknesses, I mean compared to other pros. So, for example, if we put Raise Bull in a lobby with one of you GC1s, honestly, if we put Raise Bull in a lobby with other SSLs, we're going to be able to easily see why he's so much better than everyone in that lobby. But when you're comparing pros, you want to be looking at pros compared to what's expected. What is the theoretical best for pros in a non-perfect world? And right now, we're seeing that complexity have a lot of issues in regards to that. That's why you don't need to be pro to analyze pros. You don't need to be SSL to analyze pros. At the end of the day, anybody can look at a game and logically ask themselves what would be the best thing for a team and what's the best for individuals to be able to do. But we got a lot of notes. So now we can look at one more match. So I think we got a couple people in chat. Which match would you guys prefer to look at from Regional 3? Would you guys want to look at Complexity versus Hero Base? Or you want to see Complexity versus Furia? I assume most people would want to watch Furia, if I'm to guess correctly. Just to see how that match ended up going. Yeah, Furia. We got to look at them against Furia. Let's go. Single elim stage. Furia versus Complexity. Let's see, what do their stats look like? Remember, stats don't mean everything, but they can be something good to look at. So we're looking at positive demos versus taken. They are they're all at the bottom. So Yan was the worst on Furia demo-wise, and he still had the same as the most on Complexity. So that's big issue. And then Complexity are having our big negative on demos, just like against NIP. So it looks like off-ball pressure as a whole, or avoiding demos, is a big issue that we have to put down on all of them. And this is an individual thing. Avoiding demos is completely an individual thing. Not the best at avoiding demos while staying in position, which leads to losing pressure on offense and failing to relieve pressure on defense. Something we have to put down for all three of them, sadly. Oh my, Dorito, you got a lot of weaknesses. Definitely not fun to see. But one thing we haven't paid attention to is kickoff, so that's something we should look at. See overall how the kickoff, how dynamic is the kickoff for Complexity. Let's see. Let's look at a game where they won. We look at a game where they lost. Let's look at a game where they won. Here we go. This actually be a pretty good game. They lost the first two games and then won game 3, so this will be pretty good to look at. What does their kickoff look like? I'm going to look at it from a side POV. Let's see. So we got just a cheat, a boost. I'm going to skip forward to another goal, just because I want to... Oh, we'll probably look at right here. Let's look at the kickoff just really quick. Did they mix up anything? So we got boost, cheat, kickoff. Okay. see how this kickoff looks. And boost cheat. Yeah, their kickoff is it's not bad, but they're not very dynamic. And due to everyone else in the world getting better at kickoffs, this is something that we gotta see from them. We gotta be seeing more dynamic. Here, again, very same kickoff. We've seen the same kickoff a couple times this game. And here they do mix it up, I think. If you look, instead of the person behind cheating, the other person goes. So they are trying to lose it left. They are mixing up a little bit, but compared to what some of the other teams are doing, it's still not very dynamic. So I think that's something we do have to put down for their team. Not dynamic on kickoffs. Doing, which can lead to certain teams gaining advantages over them from the kickoff start. Alright, now that we've looked at kickoffs, let's look at the gameplay as a whole, and we'll let it go in, and then we'll get into looking at Pioneers, which will be fun to look at. And I know some people are like, wow, I mean, like, I understand Sam, but why are we looking at OCE? I'm going to tell you right now, the top 3 OCE teams would more than likely demolish your SSL 3's teams. Even if you could all be top 102s. And the OCE teams would still probably demolish you. You can always learn from people. And even if OCE teams were worse than you, a good player can learn from anybody. And, you know, if all else comes to shove, if all push comes to shove, learning how to, learning what not to do is also still a skill that you can learn. Alright, we're noticing the same issues. Failure to avoid demos. But we still see a good adaptive rotation here from CRR. So everybody, if you guys don't know why this is a good rotation, we can go to a more above point of view. So normally in Rocket League, we want someone on the ball, someone supporting, and someone applying off-ball pressure. Of course, we know that Complexity as a whole have an issue with off-ball pressure on defense, but on offense, they're perfectly fine. So, but as a whole, it doesn't matter if you're on defense, transition, or offense. If you see a teammate that's off-ball pressure, so here, hopefully Dorito is just applying off-ball pressure, but even if he's not, in our minds, he's applying off-ball pressure, right? He's out of the play. So right here, CR, if he knows he's getting beat, what he's going to do is he's going to force for the person behind him, and instead of going forward to go look for demo, since Dorito's still upfield, he ends up cutting to fill in second. That way we still always have someone on the ball, someone supporting, someone applying off-ball pressure. CRR cutting to fill in second here is just better for quickness sake, but also for efficiency. If CRR was to go for demos instead and Dorito was to rotate out early, there'd be a moment in time where there's no one off-ball pressure or support, right? Whereas in this situation, since CRR cuts to fill in second, we always have someone off ball, someone on the ball, and then we only have someone not supporting for just a second. So only one job isn't filled in for a little bit compared to 2. And that is why adaptive rotations are so important to the highest level game. Honestly, this Complexity deep dive analysis went a lot longer than I thought it would. That's why I'm going to probably let this game just keep going. We can really keep talking about it. We can talk about more stuff when we get to Team Power. But honestly, it's really good that we got a longer replay review. You guys, because honestly, after we watched Furia, G2, and Carmen Core, I think we got a little complacent with the deep dive analysis just because those teams were playing so well. There were still some weaknesses that we got to talk about. But as we can see, with a team like Complexity, they got a lot of weaknesses. They got a lot of strengths, but they also got a lot of weaknesses. Honestly, I don't think Complexity are going to be... And here's what the big issue. CR, of course, mechanical, very mechanical as always. But looking at Complexity, it's like this, unlike last season, this Complexity team could lose to Pioneers. Could lose to... Maybe not this season's Gaiman Gladiators, but they could lose to last season's Elevate. It's... The only iffy part we got is maybe on LAN, all three of them show up. Like, maybe mentally on LAN, they're a lot more confident and they don't rush as much. And maybe that will make them scary. Because we do have to remember, the last time Dorito and CR both made the LAN on the same team, they got top 2. And as much as people like to downplay Gamers 8, Furia won Gamers 8 and then got top 4 at the World Championship. And that's why, like, people are like, V1. Or, like, the V1, sure, they won Gamers 8, but, like, does that mean anything? I think it does. I think we're going to see G2 look very confident. Even though it was calm on V1, I think G2 are going to be very confident going into this LAN. They do got a lot of pressure on them, but I think Atomic is somebody that thrives under pressure. His teammates last season definitely didn't thrive under pressure. But I think this could be a very good team. All three of them are going to be very confident. But in terms of complexity, don't know how they didn't get scored on there. But yeah, kind of complexity. I think this team could lose to a Luminosity, could lose to an OG. Now, don't get me wrong, I think they could beat teams, but the complexity, I wouldn't call them a dark horse for winning the major this season. Like last season, they could win the major, without a doubt. This season, I don't think so. But who knows? Maybe they get to LAN and they're one of the most confident teams there. So you do have to have that, the confidence factor is something you do have to be aware of, because a lot of SAM teams, they play a lot better on LAN just due to their mentalities for LAN games and LAN series in general. But yeah, Complexity are definitely not looking like the best team in the world right now. They're definitely not, but rotationally they are very sound, so that could make them consistent if individually they're able to show up. Alright, now it looks like, so we'll end it off here for Complexity, but everybody who's streaming, we're going to be instantly starting the Pioneers video right after this same stream. So make sure everyone's sticking around for the Pioneers video, because we're going to learn just as much. If we saw Complexity have issues, I assume Pioneers are going to have a lot of issues as well. But for Pioneers, we're probably just going to look at them versus Kaka's minions, and then we're going to look at them versus Team Power pretty much. Any other match is probably not going to be as important. But for Complexity, they have CRR, who's very mechanical, but all three of them are... We see that CRR and Dorito have issues individually when it comes to reading the play ahead of time, which makes them slower to the ball than most players, since they're not able to read the play. Did I add that as a note for them? Hold on. Does not read the play very well, instead reacts when he goes or turns to the ball. Ball's been hit, makes him some... Okay, there we go. We do have that for both of them. Okay. Now, team-wise, Complexity, playstyle... So, playstyle-wise, Complexity aren't that strong. Do not have a very dynamic playstyle. And force themselves to pass even when it's not optimal, so that's bad. But when you look at the structure, it's very solid on offense. Have a semblance of understanding for adaptive rotations, where they will ensure all three jobs are filled in. They understand the importance of ball and support on both offense and defense. So they're not a weak team, but they're definitely not the best team by a long shot. Or, excuse me, they're not the strongest team, but they definitely still are a good team overall. But thank you to everybody who showed up on YouTube. Thank you to everybody who showed up here for the Complexity video. The Pioneers video should be posted pretty much same day, so make sure to go check that out. And of course, as always, the notes will all be posted on my spreadsheet in the description of the YouTube video. So here's the last big note. Looking at Complexity, you guys can pause if you guys want to look at all the player strengths and team strengths and weaknesses. But that's it for the Team Complexity YouTube video. Thank you everyone on showing up on YouTube, and see you guys next time. Peace.